a smart book. And I'm looking forward to the webinar.
Really happy to have you here.
Okay.
We also have the SME team. I'm not sure if it's Klaus or Peter or Gabriel.
Yeah, hi everyone. This time around it's Peter from the SME team. Yes. Yeah.
Good to have you here, Peter. How are you today?
Doing fine, thanks. Doing okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So we might just give everybody another minute or so, then we'll get started. We picked this time slot for the convenience of our Asian sprint team participants. We don't have any of them joining us just yet. The majority of our community usually dialing in from the Americas, North America, Latin America, those time zones. So most of our events have been accommodating those time zones, but we want to make sure that there's something for everybody in terms of time slots for our events. So we decided to place this event at this time of day. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. We are very well here.
Amazing.
Amazing, yes. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm learning Sketch, the tool to try to do an app prototype. And I'm struggling with what I wanted to do, but it's fun. Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. What about you? How are you doing?
All good here, Ervin. I was just sharing some very, very positive good news actually from his last few days.
Okay.
Yes, so immediately we are all riding on the success of Oppimi and Ervin. So that's fantastic, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, I had a trip at the beginning of this week in Finland where we have one of our tests running since 2 years. And now we were finalizing the pilot project, and they decided to become our customer for the next 2 years. So they are the first customers that we have in Finland. So this is really an amazing news for us.
Congratulations.
Wow. Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yes. We enjoy celebrating together here, Ervin.
Usually
and you're
some champagne or coffee at this time.
yes. It's probably espresso or tea time right now, more than.
Yeah.
But then I'll see if I can grab a glass of something later today and still appreciate and celebrate your success here. So that's great.
I have actually always my cup of coffee with me. That is part of my life.
That's fun. Actually, when I was in Rabat, so I did a little presentation in an innovation and startup center. And each time someone, like an entrepreneur or startup, has something to celebrate, they have a big gong, like, I don't know if it's Japanese, so you can bang, and then everybody like, I got a customer. So
fantastic.
we need to have that digitally.
Yeah. Digital gong, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's a good idea. That's a really good thing. Let's figure out how we do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have Esther joining also. Hello, Esther.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, namaste.
Namaste. How are all of you today?
Very good. What about you?
Also very good. It's a very important document, so I've been very stressed out. But it is what it is. Learning to figure out other ways of managing things.
Right. Just take a break now, Esther. Put that aside for the next 1.5 hours or so, and enjoy writing the success with Ervin here. So we're just planning how to best celebrate a new customer of Ervin and his business. So that's a nice beginning of the day.
Yeah.
Or beginning. I've been on calls most of the night actually. So I don't know if this is the beginning or the end of the day or what it is. But I'm on lemon water right now. I had enough espressos to fuel a whole city.
So you are doing such a life, and it's not easy, but it's exciting, let's say.
Yes, yes. All right. Let's get started then with the agenda for today. And then we can, we are not that many on the call, so we will keep it very informal as always, and maybe turn this into a good discussion along the way. But Ervin has so many experiences to share that I could not chase him to get him on the call. And Ervin, we have to learn from you. And it has to be now because our sprint is coming to an end. But I met Ervin, I don't know how many years ago, Ervin.
Was it 2014? Or
2014, okay. So it's not that many years ago, but time flies, and we met in Finland, in Helsinki, in person, right? And since then I've been following Ervin and Oppimi, his company, quite closely, because I was captivated by Ervin and his team that I met few of you in Finland, and what you do is something that's very close to my heart. So obviously you pay attention when you meet a team like this. You want to hear what you're doing, how you're doing it, for whom you're doing it, and so on. But also along in the past then 4 or 5 years apparently, I've been following Oppimi, and I know that, like everybody else, you also had your bumps in the road, meeting some obstacles and challenges. But this team has been overcoming at least the obstacles that I know about, which is probably just a few of them. And this is what characterizes a true entrepreneur, that we find a way to overcome the obstacle. And it's usually a slight direction, a slight change in direction, or maybe a big change in direction that is needed to come around the road bump. So it tells you something about the deep purpose behind it. There's a strong motivation in this Oppimi team to actually succeed. And this is something that is always inspiring. So for that reason alone, it's amazing to have Ervin here. And then all the experiences of many years is valuable for us who are in very early stage of coming up with new ideas to design the future of education. This is a broad topic, and these wonderful sprint teams, and a few of them are represented on this call, find each of their niche that they're purposeful about and passionate about. Some work with children, some work with the education of adults, and so on. But everybody coming up with some really interesting ideas that I've been very passionately following, and I want them all to succeed. So I think the best way I can help is to bring Ervin in to this call. And so Ervin, we need a bit of an introduction to Oppimi and to yourself. So maybe that's a good place to begin. And One important question I always try to remember to ask is, why do you do what you do? Right. So tell us a little bit about Ervin and Oppimi before we dive into your journey.
Yeah, thanks Lars for the introduction, and I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really sorry that I was not able to be more active in this community, but I personally really like the goal of this community, and I think that definitely education deserves some disruption, and working and bringing ideas together, I think is the best way for identifying them and start working. So about me, before Oppimi, I was my background is software engineer. So I was working in different industries before starting in Oppimi. Firstly, I was working in the bank industry as an IT manager, and but actually personally, I was not feeling really happy in that industry. So I was not feeling that I was having an impact in the world. So impact of what, feeling that that industry was the one for me. But I tried to move in the startup industry. So I joined a startup in Switzerland in 2012. And this startup, it was in bank industry too, but it was more in using artificial intelligence for recognizing people through handwriting. And as my background is in AI too, I was called by this team at an early age of this startup when I was like the seventh guy doing this startup. And we were in the stage that it was the idea, but it was nothing yet built. So I started working there, creating an infrastructure for how we can create an AI infrastructure for helping this company bring the solution that was developing tablets to digitalize the process in the banks. And through these tablets, asking people to sign the contracts directly on them and be recognized. So my main goal was to create these algorithms for identifying people through their handwriting. I worked there for the first 2 years. So the first 2 years asked me to be deeply into contact with the graphologists, that are the people that today make the forensic analysis of handwriting signature. So working with these people, I get in touch with the problem that Oppimi is trying to solve. That is the handwriting issues. Graphologists that I was working with, they were following even kids that were having problems with handwriting, and they were using the old style of assessing and treating these kids. That was paper-based. And they start asking me how AI can be helpful for them, for making something that is more attractive for kids, that is more involving them, and especially is giving them more information about the behaviors of the handwriting, as they were analyzing with eye, just checking the paper and making measurements by using even the simple rulers. So in 2013, I started thinking about this. So this was something like a lamp turning on in my brain, like saying, okay, I can do something helping kids. And I started thinking about this idea, but I was alone. So I just got this feedback in one meeting. And so this idea, as usually you think about that 1 month, later on the job start taking your time, you forget about that. And step by step, after months, this idea was coming in my brain. So I was thinking, okay, it's something that I should dig deeper and see what I can do with this opportunity. So, but always in my mind, it was something for free, something oriented to a tool that is going to help kids worldwide. I was absolutely not thinking in terms of entrepreneurship. And so step by step with my job, I start meeting other people and I start sharing this idea. I start just talking about, look, there is even this opportunity. And actually this served to me as a way to filter and to analyze the idea, because those that accepted it was curious to know more, they start adding information. They start interacting with me, start saying, oh, it could be even adding this, could be good adding this too. So without thinking too much, a team was created. So I created a team of involving a professor from McGill University in Canada, and a guy that was entrepreneur, that is Guillaume, that Lars met with me in Finland, and an entrepreneur that is in game industry. That are the 4 guys that we created the first team, thinking that we can use the knowledge that we have, the experience in gaming, for creating some assessments, gamify it, that makes the process more easy for kids. And we start thinking about this as an hobby. So the first year was just reading papers, checking a little bit the market, but without a clear idea, without a clear structure, how we can create a company. Everything changed, and actually Lars, without knowing, became part of this story, because when I met Lars in Finland, it was my first business trip for Oppimi. And I was in Finland for meeting a manager of Microsoft, for sharing with them this idea, because for doing the assessment, we need a tablet and a digital pen for making the handwriting assessments. We were thinking to involve Microsoft, that has this Microsoft Surface with a pen, and see if this company is willing to, through Melinda and Bill Gates Association, that are doing a lot of humanitarian activities, if they were interested to take our idea and to help us to develop that. So till that point, it was not a company, it was not something really structured, it was just an idea and a team of guys that was willing to do something good for kids. And when I went to Finland, I met this manager of Microsoft, that a meeting was scheduled for only 15 minutes, 1-5. And after 4 hours meeting, she told me, okay, it's good to go have a dinner together, and you have to know that you guys are not realizing what you are doing properly. And she was so kind, because she explained to us that in this industry, in education industry, learning disabilities are really a sensitive topic. And till today, that day, it was not any solution for helping teachers. And she was, as background, a teacher. So it was just lucky for us meeting a manager that has experience as teacher. So, and actually at that time, it was even not the right time for Oppimi in the market, because as I mentioned, for developing our tools, we need to have a tablet and a digital pen. And the digital transformation process in 2013 was not, and 14, it was not really involving deeply schools. So it was a nice idea, not the right time for the market. So in this way, we get this feedback from this manager. We went back at home, and we start thinking that, okay, it's time to dedicate to give a structure of what we are doing, because it looks like that there is really a need in the market. After 3 or 4 months thinking about that, collecting some more information about the market, we start realizing that definitely kids are suffering. And at that time, the Learning Disabilities Association in US released the first ever report talking about the number of kids affected by learning disabilities. And actually in 2014, they shared that is 5% of kids affected by learning disabilities worldwide. And in 2017, they shared 20% of kids affected by learning disabilities worldwide. So in 3 years, they changed it to 4 times more. So after this information, we decided to found a company in Montreal and to start giving the structure of the company. So this is how at the beginning the idea was created. And actually, it's always like this, based on my experience. You just started the day one with a clear idea, with something really structured. You start sharing ideas as you are doing here in Educate for Life. So bringing an idea on the table, checking the reaction, collecting feedbacks, collecting experience with people, and starting giving a shape of what you want to create. So this is an introduction of how we started.
Super inspiring, Ervin. So and there's a lot more to come here.
Yeah.
So just maybe there are questions to your introduction from one of you on the call. Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question, Charlotte.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Why did you decide to create your company in Montreal? Because you seem to have an Italian background. I'm not sure. I mean, when I was looking at your company, it's based in Milan. And so when you create a company, how do you decide to create the headquarters or in a specific country? What were the key criteria for you to choose Montreal?
A nice question. We think a lot about that. And we decided to create in Montreal because as we were aiming at the beginning to create a game. So the first main idea was creating a game, and Montreal is a headquarters, let's say, for the game industry. So for us, creating the company there, it was helpful for three reasons. The first of all, the government in Canada was helping a lot the startups. So they supported us with subventions and informations. Secondly, the game industry was located in Montreal, so for us was more easier for finding employees and partners. And the third was my personal goal to change the environment. So as I'm from Albania actually, so I was born in Albania and I moved to Italy when I was 14 years old. And after that, I moved in Switzerland. So actually, I try always to meet new people and to exit from my comfort zone. So put myself in the middle of new experiences. So for that reason, I decided this is one of the three reasons that makes me to create a company in Canada. Okay.
Which country do you think is the best one, except you have so many good reasons to choose Montreal, you explained us, but is there some countries that are way better to create a startup, to launch a company because it's a way more supportive, flexible, agile, whatever?
Actually, I have experience on running companies in Italy, Switzerland, Canada, and China. So only these countries I can give an...
it's a lot.
Only, yes.
So in Italy, unfortunately, is the worst one. Mm-hmm. Because in Italy, first of all, the government is not concretely helping companies. Mm-hmm. And when you start with idea, especially if your company needs a period that is only focused in investing in R&D, during this period in Italy, unfortunately, you are not having a great help from the government. And the taxations are really high. If I can create an, let's say, putting them in order of priority, based on my experience, the best one is Switzerland. Mm-hmm. Because you are having help from the government, but you are even having a less pressure in terms of taxation. So as entrepreneur, you can hire people with a good salary without having a huge cost for your company. The second is Canada. And actually for the government side, Canada is having a lot of programs that are helping, even giving you 75% of the employee's salary if you are doing R&D. So this is really great for companies. The third is China, but China is, it depends on the area of China, and it depends actually even on the area of the city. For example, I have the branch in Shenzhen that is close to Hong Kong, and Shenzhen as city has different areas. There are some areas that you have less taxation, areas that you have high taxation. So China, it's the third position, let's say, and the fourth is Italy as the worst one. So these are my experiences.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I would like, if you have any kind of questions, because talking about this I'm sincere. This is my first time that I'm sharing all the story of Oppimi in the same time. And I'm used to read a lot of books, biographies, people that are sharing, and usually people share what they feel that is good to share, but they don't share the most important thing, that are the small details. What makes the idea move forward and not. That is not just the story that you can tell in 10 minutes or in 1 hour, but it's all the single events. For example, the event like meeting the right person, the right manager. This changes a life, or meeting the right partner, or meeting the right investor. So these are usually things that are not shared properly. And when you start reading a story, and successful or unsuccessful story, you see only the really worst part or the best part. In the middle, usually a lot of information are missing. So if you have any kind of question, I would be really happy to answer. Even after this hour of meeting, please feel free to ask, and I will be really happy to answer at any time. So I will move with the next step that we made after we created the company. We started thinking, okay, now we need to give a structure to this company. So how we can measure our market, how we can understand the assumptions that we have to take care for giving a shape of the idea that we are having. So we start analyzing the potential market that we have, and start making interviews, because the first thing that we thought is that the problem that Oppimi was having at the time was that all of us, we were really excited, really motivated, but no one of us was having experience in education, and no one of us was having experience in healthcare industry. So we were so motivated, full of energy, but without the right informations. And so a suggestion that I can say is that the first thing that an entrepreneur should focus is creating the team, finding the right people that can bring a concrete value on the table, and that start collecting the information, because this is the first step, giving a value to your idea, giving an process and a structure to your idea. So we start analyzing what are the weaknesses point of our team, and what kind of people we should add in the company. And so we start making some interviews with our future customers, for understanding if we are good or not on communicating with them. So Oppimi, the first thing that we make is start creating the first test in the market, the first contact with the future customers that we were having. And as I mentioned before, it was not the right time to go into education, because schools were not ready. And even the awareness and the time for learning disabilities, only the special educator team was really deeply aware about what was this problem. So we start targeting, thinking long-term, we targeted first the healthcare industry. And it was the first disaster. Because I start talking with doctors, and talking as engineer, software engineer, with a doctor was the biggest barrier. They were not understanding what I was telling. They were not absolutely understanding the value of what we were promoting to them. So I start thinking, okay, means that we need someone that is good to talk with them. Because, you know, you can find a doctor that is an early adopter, that like the technology, that is really willing to do any kind of experiment. You can find the old doctor that is absolutely not trusting the technology, and he's just saying no. And so for this reason, it's good to find the right people that is good to communicate with all of them, and explaining the real value of the idea. And actually this experiment that we made give us a lot of feedback about what we were missing. Because basically we were promoting to use the technology where the market was underlining that the technology with kids is not helping them. So every one of them was pointing out to us that, you are going to use a tablet, but tablet is one of the issues that kids are having. They are using too much the technology. So you are not going to help them. You are going to add another problem. And this was something that makes us think a lot. So how we can solve this problem. So at that point, we start thinking about the gamification and taking consideration what games today are having as issue and how we can use the game avoiding to bring to kids the problem of attentions. And as information, you have to know that today one of the reasons that the percentage of kids affected by ADHD is due to the games too, because they are used to get feedbacks very fast. They are used to stay and interact with the tool that are every millisecond interacting with them. And so when they are in the classroom and they have to wait 1 hour, for them is quite terrible. So this was a nice feedback that we got, even if it was looking at the beginning as a barrier. It was a nice feedback for us, and we start analyzing how we can build the game in the way that is not bringing this problem to kids, but is helping them. So we hired an game economist that is he was working for Ubisoft, and he was the guy in charge of creating the economy behind the game, that is basically how you get the rewards. So how you, when you play, when you are fighting with a monster, how much you have to fight with him for killing him and so on. And this is really important, because if we create an economy that is a long-term economy, so kids are not getting the rewards immediately, but they are getting the rewards step by step, this is helping them to wait, to be used to wait, to be used to have to dilute the time of the feedback that they are having. And this helped Oppimi to have an asset. So the first test at the beginning for us was looking like demotivating, like, oh, we are not good to talk. We are going to bring an issue and not a solution for kids. This comes to us as a solution and as an asset for our idea. So after this first test, we onboarded in the team a game economist. We start increasing our vocabulary, how to talk with doctors, and how to present the idea. And after that, we decided that, okay, so we got the first feedback from the healthcare industry. Let's start getting another feedback from the education industry. And we decided to start making some interviews in the schools, talking with special educator teachers, and checking how they are solving this problem today with their tools. And we decided to do that in Italy, because Italy, from all the countries that we analyzed, it is the first country that created a law in 2007 that was pushing kids for pushing schools to be equipped for identifying kids on time that are having learning disabilities. But as usually it's happened in Italy, is that there is a law, but this is just going to create an issue to schools, because schools was having the obligation to do so, and they were not having tools for doing that. So they were in the position that they had to do, and they were trying to do their best, but without having a concrete tool. And the tests that was in the market, that are currently in the market, they are not built to be submitted in the school, because as there is one assessment, that assessment, when kids are doing the diagnosis process, they should see that test for the first time, so they cannot repeat the same test. So this test cannot be released in the school. It can be released only in the clinic when it's the session of diagnosis process. So this was a nice feedback for us. So we decided that it's not just the game. We have not to focus on the game for the treatment, but we can focus on the assessment. So creating a dynamic assessment that is helping schools for solving this problem. And the tasks are changing. So based on the school, based on the age of the kids, the tasks are changing. So we are avoiding the problem that today they have with the paper-based tools that are printed and they are like that. So the first interview that we make on the market in the education industry comes, at least in Italy, that there was an issue, and but they were not having a concrete solution for the moment. And this helped us to think that we should do a pivot, so have two products, one for the trading cases that are already diagnosed, and one for diagnosing that directly in the school environment. If you have any questions, we can step by step stopping and moving forward.
I'm sensing complexity starting to arrive here in your business.
Yeah, actually, you know, it was, and really, I can say is full of stress. You know, when you feel like you want to do something, but you don't have the right tools, you feel like alone. And I read a lot of books, and actually I count like 1,000 papers in 4 years that I passed it through. But anyway, you cannot absorb all this information properly in that time. So you cannot get a PhD in every field. So this, from the same time with the team meetings, we were feeling that we are not enough. We have to grow. We have to bring people that already have these kind of experiences. So the first interview that we made start giving the right structure to the company, at least the idea of the right structure of the company and the steps that we need to build for being sure that the investment in this company makes sense. Because at this time that I'm explaining to you, it was all investment by myself. So before start talking with investors, you have always to ask the question, are you willing to invest money if you have in this idea? So if you are able to convince yourself and your friends with feedbacks, in that case, you can start convincing even an investor. So I was always asking myself, if I would be an investor, what is the question that I will ask to myself to be sure that we are able to create something that the market will need? So the question that we start asking is that how we can structure the test for be sure that this idea is working, teachers are accepting that, parents are accepting that, and the doctors especially are accepting that. And as we are talking about a clinical tool, because doing diagnosis is a digital health industry, and actually we landed in the between education and healthcare industry, but in the market that is in the fast growth, but without a lot of regulamentations, that is the digital health. That till today, in 2019, FDA is still struggling on sharing what is the regulatory pathway that a company needs to follow to be approved when we are talking about software as medical tool. So the idea starts getting complicated and complicated because before sharing with doctors and involving them, we should have some results. For having results, we need users. For having users, we need to convince parents and organizations to allow us to collect users. And for convincing them, we need to have an MVP and product that we can share with them for telling them how we are using data, how we are collecting them, what we are doing as calculation, and what kind of results we are aiming to have. So at that point, we decided to say, okay, we don't have money for doing all these things, but what we can do is involving our network for finding a doctor that is liking what we are doing, that is even willing to onboard us and start giving data. And we were so lucky, and I'm sincere, because one of my former partner, his sister is the team leader of the hospital in Italy. So we prepared hardly all the papers, all the processes that we have, because for sure we are talking about kids, so we cannot go and make tests without having a clear plan, a clear research process for doing that. So they accepted to test 2 groups with us. So they allowed us, they were working with 2 groups of kids, 6 kids each group. And they decided to test our approach with them. So they were having 1 hour meeting with them every week, and they dedicated to us 5 minutes. So in these 5 minutes, we had to collect data and make the interview for understanding how we can involve these kids and get the maximum. And from other side, we start involving clinics around the world. So we just start giving calls, calling clinics around the world and checking who is available to be an early adopter for us. And actually, this was a surprise for us because till now, I want to say, no one says no to us. So we get clinic in Finland, we get clinic in India, we get clinic in Singapore, in China, in Italy. So actually, no one was saying no.
Because you had the first hospital that worked with you, right? Do you think it's because you had this first hospital that already trusted you and you could have...
No, actually, it happens in the middle. So we run this together. So we will start having some clinics, especially in Singapore and in India. They comes before the hospital. But definitely this is going to help because step by step that you have people trusting on you, you start creating the critical mass that other people are easier for them to trust. So definitely this wasn't help. But it was just, I think that the assessments that today are used by psychologists and for assessing learning disabilities are really old. And reading papers and understanding how to communicate with them, we even understood what they were missing. And what they were missing is this. Basically, all these assessments are country-based. So they are based on the language. And they are based on the research done with a small population, like 200 kids in one area. But we know very well that the handwriting skills depend on the school curriculum, depends on a lot of factors. So you cannot assess, for example, a kid in South Italy with an assessment that arranged with kids from North Italy. And we are talking about the same country. And actually, later on, we identified this difference. And what was interesting for us is that at one point, talking with the clinic in Singapore, we were targeting to assess kids from 6 years old to 12 years old, so primary school. And this lady in the clinic in Singapore, when I made the pitch to her for explaining her that, look, that we have developed this protocol, we are assessing 6 years old to 12 years old, she starts saying like, I was like, what's happened? And I'm sorry, but 6 is too old for us. We have kids that are fluent in handwriting when they are 4 years old. I was like, what? Seriously? So for them, 6 years old kids are too late to be diagnosed. So they can even diagnose in 4 years old. And this was another lamp that turned on that is, okay, so the current tools are not working for that country. And especially, we can make something dynamic that is adapting these countries. This was another value that we added in the company. So we start analyzing that, how we can bring that. And this helped a lot when we start talking with other clinics, sharing this with them. So what I can say that we were doing well, not perfectly, but well, is listening very well what people was telling to us. Because, sorry?
How many were you at the time in your team?
At the time we were in 7.
Okay.
7. And we were doing a lot of meetings between us, so bringing around the table any kind of information, even recording the meetings to be sure that we were analyzing, because as I mentioned, we were like blind. We were not having experience in healthcare. So sometimes even the terminology that you can ignore is making a big change. Because in that time, we were not able yet to onboard a doctor to follow us. So we were IT guys talking with doctors at that time. So this helped us to, this way of managing the information on interacting with the people that were entering in our ecosystem, helped us to make a lot of pivots in our offer, so in the product shape. And after the hospital started working with us, we start having the first data, and we start making the first test for checking what kind of information we can collect from the handwriting. But in this field, we were really strong because I was having a huge experience in handwriting analysis. The professor in Harvard, in McGill University, he was having more than 200 publications in handwriting analysis in different languages. So at that moment, we start using our experience, and we were feeling like, okay, we can do that. And when we start understanding how to communicate with doctors and start understanding what kind of information we can collect, and we start sharing with them, the magic happened. So they were like feeling, oh, we want that. We want more. We want this and this and this and this. So this started giving to the first release of the product and shape that all doctors that was involved in this process was willing to have. And this gave us the first feedback that we can convince a doctor to buy. And after that came time to involve an investor, because all these calls, all this time, all these tests interviews that we were doing was starting to get expensive. And I want to say that it's not a matter of skills, it's even sometimes a matter of lucky, because at that point I decided to leave the company that I was a partner in Switzerland and dedicate my full time to this venture. At that time I was working on building a venture capital, on a joint venture in China between the Switzerland company and Chinese factory. So in the middle of this process, I decided for many reasons to leave and dedicate time to my venture. But I left the owner of this factory in the situation that he was really disappointed losing me in that stage. But I was really having a lot of emotion from Oppimi and less attention on what I was doing, because I was not loving what I was doing there. So I decided to dedicate all my time to Oppimi. And he called me one day and told me, Ervin, if you are leaving for another job, I can hire you. So please come in China and we work together if you are not happy with the company that you were working. And I told him, no, look, it's not a matter of that. It's that I have my venture and I want to dedicate time to that. And he told me, oh, seriously? What are you doing? And actually, he's developing printers. So he's absolutely outside healthcare, education, nothing. And I told him, I just pitched the idea like friends by phone. And he told me, how much money do you want? And actually, I was not able to answer that question because we were not doing any kind of forecast of costs or nothing. And sometimes I say, why I didn't ask it more, but I asked it just badly to him. And he accepted by phone. So he told me, okay, come in Hong Kong and I will give you the money. I was like, you are just kidding.
Give me his phone number.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
Yes. His name is Billy. He's having my same age. And I think that it was more the connection that we created with my previous job together. And because actually he didn't act, and he's still now not acting as an investor, because still now he don't know the other team. He's just talking with me after 2.5 years. So he's a guy, the wealthy guy that liked what I was doing and how I was doing, and trusted on me. But for me, at that moment, started the problem, because ethical problem and organizational problem. Because from one side, he told me, Ervin, I'm not investing in Oppimi, I'm investing in you. And this for me was something really heavy to, because I was thinking, am I using correctly this money? Are this money bringing value to the company? What I have to do now? So for just consume money and consume time. And here we make a company meeting. We decided that we had at the time a list of things that we were missing. So thanks to our test, thanks to our interview with the future customers. So we already at the time we were correctly knowing that we were missing some people, that we were missing some concrete tests on the market, and some and version of the product that is collecting the right data to have a scientific publication for showing that we are assessing in the right way the learning disabilities. So the first money came, and we start creating a team, renting the office, putting people around the table, hiring advisors. And this helped us to run the first big test in the market. So the pilot in the hospital was structured in the biggest way. We involved the hospital, another hospital, St. Justine Hospital in Canada. We involved an university in Parma for having a point of view of university for checking if we are doing the research process in proper way. And we involved a humanitarian organization like Rotary in Romania that helped us to collect a lot of data, because one of the issues that we were having is the amount of data, because the AI for working well, you need to have a huge amount of data and structured data. And we didn't collect that at the beginning because for doing and research, you need to be sure that the data are collected from kids that you know their behaviors, you know they are in the same environment, they are having the same assessments, and you are presenting the assessment to them in the same way. So this was mandatory for us to be sure that the data that we are going to analyze are working properly. So we hired psychologists as advisors that follow with us in our processes for collecting data, and we involved the schools in Finland, schools in Romania, schools in Italy, schools in China. And the company start having the right shape, and we start creating value. So every test that we were running, we were documenting that, we were writing down what we were doing as mistake, what we were doing properly, for being sure, and testing that to the next pilot center. For example, we make a lot of mistakes in communication. We make a lot of mistakes in presenting the product, so sharing the value of the product. And this was, we were good to identify them because we were like tracking everything. And this is a suggestion that I can give, is that when you run a test, be sure that you are collecting everything and you are reading that in different time. Because when you are there, you are getting good feedbacks. Everyone, when they are not paying, they are excited. But the problem comes when you ask them to pay. So you get motivated by them in that moment because everything is happy. Everyone is happy. They are doing something funny. They are having some feedbacks. And you too, you are funny, you're happy, so sorry. So, sometimes you forget and you don't analyze properly the feedbacks that you are having. So it's good to track everything, analyze them in different times, and be sure that every feedback that you are getting, you are learning from that. And this helped us a lot because we noticed that step by step, involving pilots, we were getting better in communicating, in sharing the value, in involving more them. And actually, I noticed that because I was checking how people were reacting with us. So the first one that we involved, they were not reacting very often. The last one, they were reacting very often. So it means that with them, we were really good on sharing the value. And so, and actually, as they were different people, it was not just based on their personality, but it was based on the communication that we were having with them. So this was telling me that, okay, we are communicating properly with them. So we set up this pilot around the world and we selected different languages for reaching the goal that we understood that is necessary to reach, that having an assessment that is multicultural, multi-language. So we involved different languages, and we make the internal scientific report, and we saw that based on the statistical data, we improved by 10% the accuracy of assessing learning dysgraphia on kids, comparing to the current tools in the market. So this gives to the company let's say the right shape that you can start talking with big guys and start thinking about, okay, now this company can be invested with people, with venture capitalists. So we start registering IPs, we start filing all the tests that we were doing in the market, and we start identifying the key people in the team and start motivating them, because they were working day and night. So, and they are the key for the future. And always you have to ask yourself, and actually even here I had a lot of issues, because when you, at the beginning, you bring in the company people that are accepting your idea. But this doesn't mean that they are the right people to help you. They can be amazing persons, but they don't have the skills, the mindset, the personality. So I struggled a lot with the team. And always I was making some mid and long-term goals with them for even understanding what they want. Because, you know, at the beginning, all people are focused on the idea. So they are liking that. Once that they see that the idea is taking shape and that can become a company, it's normal that every one of them has the personal goals, family goals. And just for making laugh, I cannot offer a Ferrari to a guy that just wants to spend time in the mountain or staying in the nature. So I cannot use the same language with everyone. So my hard job was understanding what these people want and start creating a path for making them having what they were aiming to have. And without forgetting that what is important in Oppimi, that we were doing this for helping kids and not just for money. And this is something that from the day one with the team, we decided to put that very well, write it down, because we were sure that when investors will start coming, this is not going to be the main goal, because they are looking at numbers, they are looking just making the company profitable and having the cash back. So I was lucky having this guy from China that is connected with us. He wants to help kids, and having an investor that put it money, that have the same vision as you have and the same willing that you have, is a key. So every other investor that we face it saying, we will give for free in those countries that are not able to pay for that. So we have to keep the company in the way that definitely we have to aim to make revenues, but we have even to keep continuing collaborating with Rotary Club and giving that for free for those families that are having these problems. Considering that in education is the only way that these kids have for changing their life. And if they are having learning disabilities, they are having a barrier, an unfair barrier that cannot be not supported for removing that. So this is what we decided, and we put it in the company that Oppimi will keep going, helping for free families. And we involved the Rotary Club in Hong Kong, the Rotary Club in China, and now we are preparing to give licenses for free to those families in China that are not able to afford this kind of the amount of money that we are asking. So this, from other side, at the beginning was a barrier, but after that it helped me to select properly the investor, because this is a value for some investors. And if they see the value there, means that you are having the right partner on board. And after this, we onboarded the second investor that is the founder of a pharma in China that created the company from 4 people to 2,000 people. And he's like a machine. And for me, it was like at the beginning really hard, because it's he was bringing, and he bring it in the company, the part that I was personally missing, because I'm expert in digital, but not in healthcare. And as CEO, I was missing this part that was important for the company. And bringing an entrepreneur with such experience that is even investing money in the company created the good match between my skills and his skills. And now together we have a clear vision about how the product will be in the coming 5 years. And this helped us, all these tests that we ran it, and all these the ideas that we consolidated step by step, helped us to talk with investors in the right way, because they want to know what is how the idea works, the numbers, definitely the team that is working, but they want to know the risk that they are taking. So are we avoiding, are we mitigating all the risk? Are we calculating all the risks that we are facing up? And the only thing that we were missing at that time was the connecting with the school, with the ministries, because generally schools' budget is managed by ministries. So we were talking with teachers, they were happy, but are they able to create such a leverage and pushing their system on buying our tools? And this was an unanswered question at that time. About healthcare industry, we were having quick feedbacks. They were willing to pay because they were used to pay for and paper-based. So they had already in the budget such a tool. They were just modernizing that, having more information and reducing the costs. But education system, they were not having such a budget. So they were willing to have that, but no one was a decision maker to say, I want the tool, I can buy for the tool. So I decided to increase a bit the target, and I went to talk with the Ministry of Education in Italy. It was a long trip, a hard trip, because you find usually a lot of people that are willing to say good words, but no one that is making things done. At the end, I was able to identify the right people that was expert in dysgraphia. So he understood what we were doing and how we were doing. And I asked them to do something that usually company doesn't do. I told them, come and check what we are doing. I will open the door, you will see what we are doing. And if you like, if you see that there is a concrete value for helping kids, just endorse us. Usually people doesn't do that. And but I thought to myself that they will never copy us. They will never be against us. The worst case is that they will ignore us. So doing so is a risk that I can accept for having a feedback. So I told him, I'm able to share with you everything that we are doing. You have the skill for understanding that. And if you see that there is a value, identify a person, put that as in our scientific committee that is checking every step that we are doing. And I will be really open to share that with you. And this happened. So I'm actually these days waiting the contract signed with them. And basically we will have one of them that is joining on board that will just auditing us and checking if we are using properly data, respecting the GDPR, respecting the privacy and so on. So, but this from other side is giving me the value, because if they, and definitely they will see that we are doing things properly, they will endorse us, and actually they start inviting us in the workshops where they are talking about the new methodology for assessing learning disabilities. And being introduced there by Ministry of Education, is the goal that we were aiming to have.
You have a platform, you have a policymaker on your board, like you're like, wow, you're there. Wow, amazing.
Thanks. It's a 4.5 years job actually, and you know, and is the Oppimi, we are lucky to have a great team on board. So every guy that we have on board is giving their maximum. So they are really working well with methodology. They are, and actually, I'm sincere, not because I'm the CEO of this company, but I participated in different startups, and I saw that be motivated doesn't mean that you are doing a good job. It means that you love what you are doing, but you are not doing that in the way to understand and to get the maximum value. And what guys are doing in a way, even automatically, is documenting everything that they are doing. And this is a great tool for me, sitting there, checking, asking advisors, feedback, like, are we doing that properly? Are we arranging this test in the right way? What we can do more? And are we missing some other pivots that we can do, or some values that we are missing? For example, with Oppimi, we have a core competency in handwriting analysis, and using digital tools is giving a lot of information. During our path, we identified that we can use the same core competence even for other disease, like Parkinson, like Alzheimer, that today they are part of their assessment is done through handwriting and always paper-based. So having people on board that are listening properly the market, listening properly the feedbacks that we get is the key. And this is what I'm really proud of the team, that they are doing things in the way that is really profitable for us. So they are listening, documenting, testing, and communicating between them. And you have to consider that in the company, in Oppimi, now we are almost 16 people. And we have a team in Canada, we have a team in Mauritius, a team in Italy, a team in China. So there are different cultures, different time zones, and different expertise. And it's hard. It's really hard to make them communicate. And actually, it's missing today. One of the issues that I'm trying to solve is that we are missing the coffee break. That moment that you are not having a meeting telling what you have done, but you go to the coffee and say, oh, yesterday I spent 3 hours with this issue, and oh my God, I'm still working on that. This is giving the feeling to your colleagues that you are working and you are doing something, and they can in that moment share and suggestion or just listen and create that empathy, that connection between the team that today, unfortunately, we are some way missing. And for solving this, I'm involving University of Padova, from my hometown. They are doing a second grade master for human resources, how to manage remotely team. And I asked them how we can create a virtual coffee, something that is not involving me, because sometimes when you are there, people are aware to share even what I'm not doing properly based on them. So it's good that they share, and without having the C-levels involved. So people that are just talking as normal colleagues. And this is a project that is running, and I would be really happy to share the outcomes, because I'm curious too to see what kind of approaches they will suggest for creating these links between different cultures and time zones. Consider that. Yes.
Oh, so sorry to interrupt you. I was just wondering, does your application, since you're talking about different cultures being present in different countries, does your application look completely different in all 4 countries? Or is it the same application just translated?
The application is translated, localized based on the language of the country, but the assessments that we have, 90% of the assessments that we have are cross-language, and 10% are localized based, because we are asking a sentence to kids to copy, and we need to do that in the language that that is their mother tongue. But 90% of the test that we make is cross-language because, fine motor skills that are involved in handwriting are always the same, no matter if you are writing in Latin alphabet or in others. So this is the biggest value that we bring it in our product. So we are able to identify issues in handwriting. That doesn't mean sometimes that is dysgraphic. Kids affected by dysgraphia, but there can be even kids that are not well trained. And especially the current curriculum that in education system is changing, and unfortunately they are removing from the curriculum the cursive writing. And about this, that is directly connected with your backgrounds in education, this is a big issue actually. And I want to share the last feedback that I got some days ago in Monday in Finland. Finland is considered one of the best education system in the world, but they remove it from the curriculum, the teaching cursive to kids. And we make this year's pilot with them, and we identified, it came out that kids in Finland were struggling doing an assessment that in Italy were good to do. And this was really interesting because the teacher that is managing the project from the school side, she made a pitch showing that they should bring back the cursive in the curriculum because this is making kids losing a skill. And there are a lot of research that are underlining the importance of handwriting for the brain development and for the results in the school. There is a nice article shared by Wall Street Journal that they make a test with kids, asking them to, they were checking their brain activities, and they asked them to use the keyboard, to use the cursive and capital letter writing. And they identified that when you are using the keyboard, the brain activities are really few, because you are just putting the finger on the coordinates that the button is. And if I ask you, what is the font of your keyboard, is hard sometimes for you to answer. But if I ask you how you write the letter F, you know that very well. So your brain is, even when you write, is taking information and saving this information. When you are using the keyboard, it's just the coordinates. So this came as a strong reinforcement, endorsement about our approach, that definitely we are using the technology, but we are still using the handwriting as motor fine skills, and using that in the way that is not bringing other issues to kids, so not bringing problems that the technology usually is bringing today, but making the environment for them more funny and easy to pass through that. So just imagine a kid that is affected by dysgraphia, he will not be happy to write for assessing that, for improving that. But if it's playing a game, he will spend some time on that and he will get great results. So, sorry?
Yeah, continue, because I have like so many things that I want to point out. But are they actually, when they are performing when they are working with your tool, are they actually holding a pen against the screen, or is it a finger thing? So this.
They are using a digital pen that is a little bit heavier than the normal pen.
Mm-hmm.
And this pen is working directly in contact with the screen. And so all the assessments are shown in the screen with the same dimension that are in A4 paper that they are used to use. And when they write, we are able to measure how they are holding the pen, the pressure that they are exercising, the speed that they are moving. And actually we have roughly 200 features for every second that we collect from them. So this is even giving a lot of information to teachers and doctors.
And you have an amazing potential in this, because I'm sorry, I have to introduce myself, my background. I am a psychologist with Montessori background. You've really committed a miracle, convincing a Minister of Education to come to an external idea, because historically speaking, a Minister of Education has refused Maria Montessori to introduce her program in Italy, and she was the one who first introduced the idea of a hand being the extension of a brain. And right now the current neuropsychology and neuroscience confirms that there is a vast amount of brain surface that is actually responsible, that reflects the movements of a hand. So you really have, out of the things that you do, that you studied in graphology, you really have a huge potential of going towards the direction of reinforcing the handwriting. I'm sorry, I'm very emotional because there's just so many things that are kicking in. If you're in Albania in July, I will be there. I'm in Durrës for 2 weeks in Albania. I don't know if it is the case, then we can talk about it even more. But you really, there is so much discussion, and you will be aware of that, going on around the topic about the fact that kids are losing handwriting, but the fact that the pencil grip is something that is translating into the slower development of brain. So with all the data that you have, that's why I asked the digital pen question, you really have an amazing potential to go to a market that is so pulsing with needs. So, wow. It was an expression of all the things that I was just writing on my,
We can keep going, actually. And I know that Lars told me that the committee will still keep going ahead. So definitely we can talk and dig deeper these topics. And definitely this is the value that we are having. And actually we are building the first database in the world that is having qualified data that are collected with presence of psychologists. That is that we are uniformize the data, and we are doing even a longitudinal test. So we are collecting from the same kid data 3 times per year. So at the beginning of the school year, at the middle, at the end. And this is giving us something that was missing before, and evidence and number that is showing their improvement. Because, you know, kids that are affected by dysgraphia, not all of them will be able to have a really fluent handwriting. But the process of training themselves is mandatory for their brain development. So the goal is to keep them using the motor file skills, train themselves, no matter if they will be really good on having a fluent handwriting, but they need to pass through this training process. And having such a database is giving us even information about how kids are improving their skills, with what rhythm they are improving their skills. And we are so excited because I think that the coming 2 years we'll have some data to share with the community that are really valuable for this point of view.
So wow, amazing. Incredibile, un lavoro proprio alto livello.
Ok, we switch to Italian. Grazie mille.
Yeah, I have a question, if I may ask. So thank you very much for all the storytelling. I have a question about what is a good time to raise funding and start to meet investors, because we are always excited about our idea, but what is the good time, what we should have to feel like, okay, we are mature enough to show something and have a discussion with investor. But because, as you say, you were so surprised that your the Chinese company tell you, okay, how much do you need? Okay, come in Hong Kong. So I think we need to be prepared to have a discussion with investors. So what is your recommendation on that part?
You know, there are different ways to raise funds. It depends on the idea that you have and the time that idea needs to be developed for bringing that to the market. So first of all, always before talking with any kind of investor, even your relative or your parents that you want to raise money, you should ask some questions to yourself. So what is the idea? So analyze the idea, the feasibility of that, and at least have an idea about what are you missing and what kind of test you can run for be sure that this idea is going to work. So you need to first of all create build the first test for testing, for giving yourself the feeling that this idea is going to work, and raise the money only for making that test and a little bit more. So, and you move like this. So you can go to an angel, or you can go and crowdfunding platform, depend on the product that you want to run. But when you go to an angel, you need to share with them the idea, the potential of the market that you have. And so you need to know this, and you need to know the steps that you want to do for testing that your idea is going to work. So usually angels are asking this, so they want to know how you are going to use this money. So before talking with them, you need to know how much money you need and how you are going to use that, and what kind of feedbacks you are going to collect from them, you are willing to collect from the market. And once that you have this, you can start convincing some angels for investing enough money for making these tests. I don't know if I answered all your questions. Charlotte?
You didn't. We lost Charlotte. Charlotte, get back.
Yeah, come back to us.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I don't have. Internet is cutting when I'm asking the question. So I'm coming next, closer to the Wi-Fi box. Sorry.
So actually, it depends on the. It depends a lot on the product that you want to do, because there are complexity of the product and the complexity of the team that you need, and the complexity of the test that you need to run for doing so. And actually, I can suggest to you a course that I made some time ago for Harvard Business School online. That is the Entrepreneurship Essentials. So in that course, they were basically passing through all these points, explaining how to evaluate an idea, how to analyze what you need for be sure that the idea is working, and how to present that idea to different stage of investors that you will need to raise. So basically, for angels, you need to be sure how you are going to use the money and what you want to know from the experiments that you want to run to the market. And definitely they will ask the team, they will check if the team is having enough experiences for running the test and especially building that product that you want to build.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And another question is that what is the good time to move from a team? So like you're happy to work on a kind of volunteer thing to a registered company where you will need to have salaries and all of that.
I think that these, first of all, the co-founders, so the first team should work with an agreement together for being sure that the company, the shares are released properly, the part of the shares that everyone is owning. This is really important because this is a headache that tomorrow every entrepreneurs have. Because at the beginning, everything is beautiful, everything is funny, exciting and stuff. But when money starts coming, and you want to be sure that these people that you are involving, they are committed properly, they are bringing the value. No matter about, we are not talking about bad persons or a good person. We are talking about skills. So you need to create your mechanism, your workflow for checking them, giving them, testing them basically. So giving them tasks, checking how they are working, how they are reacting, are they willing to learn, are they willing to collaborate, because it's better to anticipate this at the day one, otherwise you can find a lot of problems in when the venture will start taking the shape. So if you have an idea, you start talking with people, you start collecting feedbacks, you start creating your vision. Once that you have your vision, you start pitching with people that you think that they can be helpful with your venture, but having a clear idea about their effort, and start always using their time, few of their time, for not involving them deeply at the day one, but give yourself a time to analyze how they are reacting and what kind of experience they are bringing on board. And based on that, you start releasing them the shares and you start creating the company. So first this. Later on, when you start hiring people, it's better to have at least an investor on board when you're doing that. Because this is you need to share your risk basically. So you have an idea. First of all, you have to convince people to join your venture. And this is giving you an endorsement. So it means that this is convincing our people this is working well. You start sharing the risk with them, start answering questions that your business needs to be answered for, be sure that this is the right path. And once that you have a clear idea, you involve the people that is giving the money for sharing the risk of the venture that you are building. Otherwise, you will have another issue, that is the money pressure. So this will affect you deeply, because market will give you good and bad feedbacks, and your mood need to be always stable. So you cannot go up and down, because this will affect your communication with your team, will affect your communication with investors, with yourself, with the feeling that you have with your family and so on. So you need to be sure that when you make a step, you are sharing risk with people, and you are making the right questions to for your business to step by step move forward, and having that, let's say, reducing at maximum the risk that you can have for every stage of the company that you are leading.
Super, but it's super useful. And maybe a last question is like, what is the amount you need to raise? Like, is it like your one year annual budget to pay all the salaries, invest in the technology, and etc.? Or you can go on a smaller scale and, I don't know, raise something for the first quarter or 6 months, or is it too risky?
Okay, the first thing, money are king, means that without money, company is going to die. But from other side, raising too much money is risky too. Means that you are putting the investor in the huge risk, but even yourself in the huge risk. And basically, from the entrepreneur point of view, you are sharing too much shares with him. Because definitely, if you make a fundraising in early stage of the company, you didn't run the test in the market, you don't have intellectual properties, you don't have the right team yet, they will take most of your company. So the pressure that you have to balance is raising enough money to run experiments that are growing the value of your company, taking a contingency. Means that you know that you need to run a 3 months test, and for running that test, you need, let's say, 100K, you will ask for 130K. So you have a contingency of 30K if you find out that the test need more money, or I'm talking about numbers, but actually you should talk in terms of percentage of contingency, because mistakes are common. No one of us will be good on forecasting and experiment testing the market perfectly well if you didn't do that before. So always, and this is something that even investors understand, and usually they don't trust when you are too confident. So you should even tell them that, look, I'm aiming to do this test. Based on my calculation, it will take 6 months. I will need this amount of money, but let's add this contingency to be sure that we are not going to run out of cash without having this milestone reached. So you should work in milestones, having the main milestones, raising enough money for bringing the first value to the company, but always working hard in your networking with investors. Is nothing better than involving all the investors in the day one and tell them, have a look on us. We don't want money today, but we want you to look at us and see how we are working. This will make them feel comfortable. They are not taking a decision on day one. And if they see that you are step by step reaching milestones, increasing value, they will call you.
Yeah, that's super. It's super useful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, don't worry. So don't aim to take too much money, because yes, it looks like, oh, I have money, but this is not paying back properly back. So you need to think in terms of experiments that you have to run, information that you have to collect from the market, and collect the money to them.
Mm-hmm. Where do you look for those investors if you don't have a Singaporean friend that offers you whatever you like?
Actually, there are a lot of fundraiser accelerators. So companies that are usually working with a business model with success fee. So you involve them and they take a percentage of the amount that they are raising for you. And so you can engage these kind of companies that are even helping you to prepare all the paperwork that you need to have for passing through the due diligence. And I'm today, because now with Oppimi, I have 2 investors, so we actually successfully reached a three round of investments. That was all seed investments. So we raised the first money, as I mentioned, with my friend that gave it money directly, but without a clear plan. Definitely we made mistakes. We didn't reach things properly, and we discovered that we will need more. And I asked him to reinvest another amount of money, and he accepted, because at that time I was having a clear idea how I was going to use the money. And once that we reached the milestones that we were aiming, we involved this second investor that is bringing his experience and his channels, because as pharma they are selling in all China. And so he bring it with him the experience, money, and channels. But we were able to onboard him because we were having a clear idea how to put the product on the market. Otherwise he will not. So and now as we are preparing for the round A that we are talking about a huge amount of money, I'm working with fundraiser accelerators that are helping me to prepare all the documents that we need to have, and they are talking with investors that they already know. So they are not an entrepreneur that is knocking door by door trying to convince them, but they are presenting the idea in the right way. So investors that are interested, they come and talk with us.
You were talking about the fact that you have to ask yourself, before you're talking to investors, ask yourself, would I invest my money in this idea? What would be the ratio of your investment? I know there's a question, you're talking about the question, but some of the people that I've interviewed for Tuesday, to be ready for the Tuesday presentation, they when I spoke about crowdfunding, Kickstarter and all, they all shared with me the fact that you have to have around 40% to invest in kickstarting your idea. Was it your experience as well?
Actually, about the Kickstarter and the crowdfunding platform, I don't have a big experience because but I know it is risky sometimes, because you can even fail because of the success. I have some cases that companies that were selling products selling before developing the products, and they failed because they were a huge success, and you are taking from the market, you are selling something that you don't have yet. But if you didn't make properly your calculation, and you are not able to be profitable or to develop or to release on time that product, this is a boomerang that is going to kill you. And in this platform, you don't have a person that you can sit down and say to him, look, I made this mistake because of this. So I came out that we need more money or we need more time. And they can understand. So having an investor, you have a common interest. In crowdfunding, you have thousands of people that are even not understanding what you are doing. They are just waiting. So there are successful platforms for some kind of products, but I would not suggest for a product like the mine one. That can have a lot of barriers, can have delays and stuff. So this is going even to affect your reputation in the market. That is not good. And from other side is even discouraging investors, because investors that are investing in the company that they raised money through crowdfunding and they are still have to release because there is a debt. You are having a debt. And so if you need other money from venture capitalists, they are not going to give you money easily. So you need to think about that.
Okay. All the rest of the questions I had were asked by Charlotte. But I wanted to give you feedback. It was amazing to see, sorry, it wouldn't be a place, but I really appreciate to see how you have evolved, like your company, how you have evolved based on the obstacles, like how you have turned them around and how you have observed the environment. Like you have observed the new legal regulations, and then you said, okay, we hop in because there's an opportunity here. How you pivoted your product to two products, one for kids that already had a problem, one for kids that only needed assessment, and an amazing learning as well that you've when you I work at the European Medical Association, so I really know that some doctors really are not tech. So how you got conscious about increasing vocabulary to speak to various stakeholders. So these are also points for me for learning, apart from the investors teams and all the rest. So fale minderit. Thank you very much for all the things that I learned here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And running a startup is the experience is never enough. That means that every startup, I consider that as a human body. So that they had a head, hands, legs, but the behaviors is different for every one of us. And the same is for startups. I have been working in different startups. Even now I'm involved in. I'm trying to help startups around the world. And actually, every product, every venture has that specific needs. So this is something that I think that the best skill that people has to have is be a good listener. So understanding what they are doing and the environment that they are going to enter with this venture. So this is really the most important skills, because everything else you can learn. So, or you can hire people, because it doesn't mean that you are running a company, you need to know everything about that. You involve advisors, involve partners and help, but understanding where you are going and why you are going, this is a key. You must do that. So be a good listener is really a key for every venture. So this is the common skill that every entrepreneur or C-level or employee need to have, in my opinion.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was super useful for us, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm really glad, actually, and it was exciting to me too, and sharing this, and now I'm feeling even badly about the time that I was not able to join sprints and be more active in this nice community that Lars is building. So, and I think that this for me, and I want to share this too. What I was suffering because I was in Italy. For example, why in Silicon Valley there are a lot of startups and why there are not in other areas of the world. So I was always thinking why they are all go there, or in some of cities and some countries. Because they are helping each other. There is a community that is growing. So you can easily go and take a coffee and talk with an entrepreneur or with a guy that is making mistakes and sharing what mistakes they are doing. Because from the good things is you are not learning too much. You are more learning from mistakes. Because if I come and say, oh, we were so good, we made that, we were amazing listener, we take that in this way without mentioning the errors that we made, I'm not helpful for no one, because it's just a story. It's like reading a book of a biography of someone. Mm-hmm. And about this, I suggest to all of you to read a book that is The Hard Things of Doing Hard Things. That is the story of this entrepreneur that is actually showing all the issues that he was having step by step. And this for me was really useful, because like thinking about the team, thinking about the risk that you are going to have, how to set up, these are the only way that makes you to have a great adventure. Otherwise, you are just going to fail. And I was suffering this in Italy because I was not having other guys like me to share what we were doing. And this is one of the things that I solved traveling and going and meeting people out, in other countries, as we met Lars. So for me, talking with Lars in Helsinki at that time was really important. Yeah, because and actually it was like because Lars was interested in having a person with his background that is listening to you. This is another endorsement, because it means that you are sharing something that makes sense. No? Otherwise, no one is spending time to listen to you, and so can do other things. So this helped me. Even the feedback that I remember, the suggestion that he gives to me about the business model that we didn't mention here, but I was thinking at that time, before meeting Lars, that I have to be really good on preparing one business model, and that business model should be perfectly good. And Lars told me, yeah, no, you have to have more business models. I was like, what? Seriously? And he told me, no, you have to have the first one, but even the workaround, the plan B, plan C, plan. So think about different approaches, and not you have to share that. And for me, this was something that, and I was like feeling, I'm not good to do a business model, so investor will not, and thinking that only one you can present. And actually this helped me a lot, thinking like, okay, let's make some tests. Let's make different business models. And I'm really thankful to Lars for a suggestion that he gave to me at the time. So all these are piece of puzzles that if you are listing them properly, you are writing them down, evaluating, create the full picture of your company.
I think we all have lots of things to be grateful for Lars. One of them being the fact that he chased you, and he manages to chase you for this very final part of our sprint. Thank you, Lars, and thank you for letting be chased as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was the name of the book you mentioned?
I will send the link. It's The Hard Things and Doing Hard Things. I will share the link in the chat.
Ben Horowitz. It's a fantastic book. Yeah, we'll share the link.
Yeah, it's a really nice one. It's really nice fun.
It is. It is.
Thank you very
Ervin,
much.
yes, we're coming to the end of the session, right? We could continue for hours, and I would love to, but I think we have to close this one. So I've captured the fantastic comments in the chat, which is for you, Ervin. It's a lot of gratitude for joining us here, sharing your amazing learnings, your intimate thoughts about what has happened and what's going to happen next. And exactly, community is for me one of the key ingredients in cooking a good startup. It's about being part of something bigger, being part of a community, and we have together grown a community that will continue to be here because of you. So I really appreciate, Ervin, also you being a part of our community, and now you have kicked us off to actually start to test our ideas and giving us some valuable insights and advice on how we can do that. So thank you so much, Ervin. This has been super inspiring. We appreciate it. Are you unmuted, Ervin?
I'm sorry. Thank you all, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to share this with you, and thank you very much, seriously, for involving me.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing. It's so good. It's so important.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to send out a little recording with an introduction to the session next week. We're not doing it now as planned, but I'll send out a little introduction to the final presentations next week for those of you who are presenting. And as Ervin talked about his story, he had a phone call with a guy in Hong Kong, and suddenly it turns into a pitching opportunity, and suddenly there's some funding coming out of it. So the presentations next week is not a lot about looking back, because we can only look forward, really. It's about telling all of us in the community about what are your plans, and then who knows what opportunities suddenly come out of that, right? At the minimum, some feedback from different people with different perspectives, some new connections being introduced to you, and then we never know the future, except we want to be part of designing it. So thank you, all of you, for today, and I wish you a fantastic Friday and weekend, and see you next week.
Thank you to all of you guys, and have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
And please feel free to send any question if you have. So talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ervin. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.